Well, today I have an appointment at the hospital. I'm going to have to drive there. The appointment's at 1:30. So I just want to take you with me and just share what's going on and give you a little bit of an update for those who are interested. It's an update on my health and my condition. First of all, there's a little bit of a backstory to all this. I lost my father when I was 17. My father just being 47 years of age. He actually passed away while we were all together on holiday. We used to go to see and stay with family in Wales, here in the UK. And for years we did that. We stayed in caravans. Here in the UK, a lot of people growing up had these experiences as well, had these sort of holidays. And when I was 17, my mum and dad wanted to take us abroad. We'd been to Spain a couple of times as a kid, as a toddler sort of age. And when I was 17, we went to south of France. We did one of these camping holidays, so we stayed in a tent on a site, a really nice place in the south of France. We'd booked 2 weeks, and my dad suddenly passed away. Just the age of 47 with a heart attack. He did have a little bit of a history. Just before then, my dad liked to drink, and he was hospitalized before sort of Christmas time. I remember that, and it was told that he had to change his lifestyle. There wasn't that sort of there wasn't the sort of medication then, and so he had to change his lifestyle, otherwise it was told that that would be it. And so we're on this holiday in south of France, and my dad just enjoying a drink with me, and he told me a lot of things that I didn't really know. My dad was quite a quiet man. There's a lot of things I didn't know about my dad. During the time, my mum went shopping, my siblings were out on excursions, that sort of thing. So it was just a bit of time with me and my dad alone, and he told me a lot of things. Told me about his hospital visit. They had him wired up to a machine, a treadmill. They had him pushing him, so they tested his heart. But they did tell him he was diagnosed with angina, and if he didn't change his lifestyle, then that would be it. So I had a few drinks and sort of enjoying the holiday. I went for some more wine. And before I left for some more wine, he did tell me about life being too short. You know, you never know when your time is up. And I went for some more wine, and when I came back, that was it. He was gone. But the last words that my dad shared with me will always be with me, and he did say that life's too short. You never know when your time is up. Life's a gamble. And that was it. That was the last words that he ever spoke to me. And when I think of that, him being 47, it was a really, really dark time. But I always had in my head the age of 47. I always thought of that age. I always had a question hanging over me. Am I going to last longer than 47? I just had this feeling about being 47, and quite funny, that's when this happened to me. I was 47, I was on holiday. I paid for an all-inclusive holiday to Turkey. And the condition that I have is hereditary, it's genetic, and so that's one of the things. Just wanted to point that out. It's quite interesting, I suppose. But I did always have this age in my head, and that was something I really did think that I thought this was going to be my last holiday, and maybe something had happened while I was abroad. If I got to be abroad with the illness that I had, all the symptoms, I wasn't sure. But yeah, just an interesting point there to the story, just a little bit of backstory, a bit of information about family history, that sort of thing. I still can't believe that these are the tablets that I take every day. You know, we've got different days, otherwise I'd forget. But it's quite a few tablets per day. So I take these in the morning, then in the evening, and then before bed. Unfortunately, during the filming of this video, I don't know what it is, but when I'm in the car, I've tried it once before and it's almost like the sound's condensed. I think maybe for the car next time I need to not have the mic. I think maybe with the stereo, I don't know, it just seems to have this horrible sound. So I just thought I'd give you a little bit of an audio over the top, just to just let you know what's going on. And like I said, it's not all doom and gloom. When I first received my diagnosis, my heart was pretty much collapsed, and I don't know how I got through working and this, that, and the other. First of all, I was misdiagnosed. I did have a scan, or well, an X-ray at the hospital near where I live, and they I'd even like to say they misdiagnosed my condition. Not even that. What they did was I had an X-ray, and they didn't bother telling me what was going on with the X-ray. What they did, they sent me away with some antibiotics, said I did have an infection. This is just a couple of days after coming back from holiday. I had to see the doctor while I was away on holiday because the breathing was quite severe. It was 40 degrees, got up to 42 degrees in Turkey, so it was really, really hot, and just really struggled to breathe while I was there. I couldn't do anything like swim. As soon as I did a little bit of swimming with my son in the pool, I had to get out, and it took me a couple of hours to recover. And that's what it was like at work before I went on holiday. Pulling big pallets and, you know, in excess of 1,000 kilos, big drums of rapeseed oil and things like that, lifting 25 kilos of sugar. It was just really, really difficult time. So the hospital sent me away with some antibiotics, and because of the breathing, the situation with the breathing, it just caused a lot of anxiety. I was having panic attacks pretty much daily, and it was going on for a few hours at a time. Really, really scary sort of situation, and that was just simply because I couldn't breathe. If you can't breathe, then it's quite a panicking sort of feeling. So that's what I thought it was, and I did make an appointment to see my GP. And the GP was really nice, and she did say, "What would you like me to do? What do you think would help?" And I did suggest going on a mild form of antidepressant, and that was fine. Started taking those, and the panic attacks did stop. So the panic attacks stopped, and the treatment was working for me. And while the doctor prescribed me these antidepressants, they also set up an appointment just to follow up to see how this medication was working. So it was probably a couple of weeks after then that I had this appointment, this follow-up. And when I went in to see the doctors, they took my blood pressure, just a few checks. And I asked them, well, what about these, what about the breathing? Because I'm really struggling. Bearing in mind I was still at work. And I did receive an appointment for a heart scan. When the time came for this heart scan, I was really severely sort of ill. It came just after the hospital appointment. And so what I did, I cancelled that appointment. I wasn't well enough to go. And so while I was in the doctor's talking about the breathing, he did say, what about some sort of heart scan? And I said I did have an appointment. I did have an appointment at the hospital, but I wasn't well enough to go with the panic attacks and anxiety. So the doctor, luckily, I had a doctor that was also practicing at the hospital where I had my x-ray. And while he was looking at my notes, he said, oh, let me just check. And there was nothing on there from about the scan or the x-ray that I had. Keep saying scan, I mean x-ray. So there's nothing on the system about my x-ray, no results, nothing like that. And so what he did, because he worked at the hospital as well, he had access to the records of the hospital, knew where I live. And he went on that and saw that the results of that x-ray was I had an enlarged heart, quite large, and I had a lot of fluid on the lungs. So when he saw that, he said, he told me what he'd found, and I said I wasn't aware of that. Nobody said anything at the hospital. And so that started off a lot of different appointments, and it took a while. I was still working nights, so that was really difficult. It was a case of every time I did something physical, and bearing in mind my job was quite physical, a lot of lifting, a lot of pushing heavy products and pulling pallets and that sort of thing. So long story short, after a few appointments, they did some blood tests and we're going to check, see if it's heart failure. If these results come back, the BPI or something results, if it's below 40, something like that, I can't remember, but something like that. And if it's that, then it will be possibly heart failure. And I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. First of all, I couldn't believe that the hospital sent me away knowing that I had heart problem with my heart, an enlarged heart and lots of fluid in my lungs, and just sent me away. Sent me away just with some antibiotics. So it took from that time, that was August when I came back from Turkey. It was a couple of months before I was diagnosed, and during that time I was still working. Things were getting increasingly difficult. I don't like taking time off work, but in the end that's what I started doing. After 3 or 4 days working, it was a really busy time. So the workload was really a lot, and so I started ringing in sick. I started having maybe 1 or 2 days during the end of the week. I worked Sunday to Thursday night, so I finished Friday morning. So after a couple of months, this is in October, I went to the hospital to see the cardiologist and have some tests, some ECGs, a heart scan. And that's when they kept me in hospital. And I was in the hospital for a 2-week period, quite severely ill. When I think about it now, I don't know how I got through that period of time. One of the first things that they did was the cardiologist. She was the cardiologist registrar, so she was quite high up. She took me off this medication, this antidepressant, and said it was not beneficial for my heart, affect the heart quite negatively. So she took me off that, said would replace it with something else. So while I was in hospital, I really hit a rock bottom. It was the panic attacks came back. It was like a crushing feeling. If any of you out there, and the reason why I made this video, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. I don't really talk about my diagnosis. I don't really talk about my condition, but I did put out a video, but it was a little bit scatty, a bit all over the place. So that's why I put out this video. I think if it helps someone, if you have any heart condition, or if you know anyone that does, then maybe this could help in some way someone out there. Let me know in the comments if you do have heart failure or anything similar, if you're on medication, or well, one of the things that they did say at the hospital was I was down for, at the worst, a heart transplant, or I was definitely up for a couple of devices. They have the a pacemaker and a defib, sort of two devices, so that if the defib or if your heart sort of stops, then the defib would kick in and shock your heart to keep going. So that's what I was facing, and things got really difficult at work. I had to sign off work. I signed off work and got a sick note because they didn't give me a sick note. They didn't tell me to stop working. I carried on working a few months into my diagnosis. But the 24th of October, that's when I was had an appointment at the hospital, and they just kept me in. So I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. Bearing in mind, they just took me off these antidepressants, and it was like a crushing feeling. I can't explain it was like an overwhelming force, and it was a really bad time. And so I saw the doctor and said that this is what happened, and they took me off the medication and said that they replaced it with something else, and they didn't. So I was prescribed a different antidepressant, and then after a few days really struggling, I began to feel a bit better with my mental health, with my panic attacks. So yeah, I was on the road to recovery by then, and things eased off from the it was definitely one of the worst side effects that I was suffering. But once that passed, once I started feeling better, no more panic attacks, things started to improve. I was still on all this medication that I'm on now. So I went from a very low pumping heart. It was 5 fractures, which a normal heart is 55. So I went from 5, and now it's in March I saw the consultant at the hospital, and it went from 5 to 40 something, 42. It was 42, so it's just below average. So the medication has really helped. The medication is keeping me going, and I had another appointment yesterday. And I did try and film the journey to the hospital, but obviously my mic didn't seem to want to play. And but yeah, my heart, from the consultation, my heart is 4 times stronger than what it was. It still means that I can't ever lift weights again. But, you know, I'm still here. And if there's anyone out there that's affected by heart disease, or then let me know in the comments section. I would appreciate your thoughts and I guess your journey through this. So I just wanted to drop this video, just a quick one, let you know where I'm at. Things are definitely a lot better than where they were. You know, when your heart stops to function properly, it caused a lot of different symptoms for me. I did also get a swelling in my legs, which was absolutely excruciating pain. I weren't eating that much because I just felt this bloated feeling. When I was at work and say if I wanted a coffee or a drink, I'd have that and then I'd just feel sick. I was sick quite a lot of times, throwing up. It was like whenever I had something to eat and sometimes drink, it just sat in my stomach and it wasn't digested, so it was really heavy on my stomach. A lot of times I was sick. I had a lot of diarrhea. It wasn't a good time. I lost a lot of weight. I weren't going to the gym, still working, still doing enormous amount of work, a lot of batches. And it was just a really, really hard time. I don't know how on earth I got through this time. I mean, my heart was 5 fractures, which is significantly too low. And I just think to myself, you know, what does it have to be before someone has really serious consequences? Either a heart attack, a stroke, or just drop down dead. So I must have been, I can't see how it would have got any worse without dying. So that's where I'm at. I think I'm really lucky to get so bad and then get not so well, but improve significantly. So the consultants, the doctors, they're all happy with my progress. They said I'm what you called a responder. They try these medications. With someone like me, in my condition, it don't usually get that bad. I was left too long, months even, before I was given the diagnosis. And so for someone like me in my condition, trying these different medications, different powerful drugs, he said I'm a responder. This is 6 months after treatment, after the hospital, after the stay in hospital. So I said there's 2% of what we call responders, and I'm one of them. So I'm really lucky in that way. The talk of 2 devices or even a heart transplant have gone. But it just means that I'm going to be on this medication for the rest of my days, and I can handle that. I was in the consultants yesterday, and I said, well, if I've got to take these medication, I did ask him if I do have to take the medication, if there will be a time when I can stop, but he just said it's going to be for life, and that I can handle. Rather than have something foreign put in your body could reject that. You could cause infections. It can cause a lot of sort of secondary problems and issues. And so I can handle the medication. That's absolutely fine with me. Life is good. I think how blessed I am. I do focus on things. Things aren't all bad. There's always someone out there that's worse off. It was just a really bad time, but I'm learning to rebuild, and through my art therapy, it just helps distract what's going on, and I sort of deal with it that way. Let me know in the comments section if you use art as a therapy against some health issues, or any sort of problems. You don't have to tell me what problems, that doesn't matter, but how art really does affect your mental health, your mental state, and even physical health. I'd love to know your thoughts, I'd love to know your feelings on that. I'd love to know what you think. So yeah, that's my situation. I just thought I'd give you a full sort of, as not as scatty as before, as full and as honest as I can what's going on. And look after yourself. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you in my next video.